Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to the GPA podcast. And today I have a client with me, Michael Archinall. Michael, how are you today?
Yeah, great, Billy. Good, thanks.
That's way, mate. And I really appreciate you being here. And I guess we've got you on the podcast today, Michael, and you put your hand up, so I do appreciate this. And I guess we're going to talk about your golfing journey, mate, your journey with chronic back pain, and I guess where you are today.
Yeah, look, the reason I put my hand up was I've had such amazing results, having played golf for many years since I was a kid, but usually with back pain, to be pain free is just crazy.
Yeah, definitely. No, I really appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to getting into the chat because it's really good to reflect where you once were. And we just briefly spoke about it before, where you once were to where you are now and playing some really good golf. So it's always nice to see and sit back from afar and look at that. So do you mind giving the audience a bit of a background, mate, with your golf, how you got into the game firstly?
Yeah, look, like well, I don't know, like most of us, when I was at school, mate had a set of golf clubs. He lived on the back of a golf course. We used to muck around and hit a few balls, and it doesn't take long. You hit a couple of shots, and you think, "Ooh, this might be the game for me." So I started as a junior. Not many people played golf back then. It wasn't like today, and progressed through the junior ranks, playing pennants and bit of representative golf. And yeah, but then gave it up like a lot of us do when family arrives and things get in the way. And then took it up again in my late 30s and 40s, and still playing today at 61.
Well done, mate. So I imagine you've hit a few golf balls over that number of years.
And lost a few, Billy.
I'll join you there, mate. And with your golf career, then, has back pain been something that's plagued you for a number of years then?
Yeah, look, I've always had lower back pain as long as I can remember, even as a kid. But back then nobody knew anything about it, and there wasn't really any help at all, and certainly no diagnosis. So you just kind of grinned and bared it, and took some pain relief, and didn't play when it was too sore. And that was kind of what I was a bit concerned about when I started to take the game up again. The everything was fine, but then lo and behold, I started to get a bit ahead of myself and play a bit more, and decided to really go for it and see if I get my handicap back down again. And lo and behold, I blew a disc in my lower back.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of golfers do experience that, and I guess as golfers, half of us will experience back pain at one time, so it's very prevalent. So, do you mind talking about what happened following that then?
Yeah, so when I blew the disc, it was pretty bad. It was very acute. Woke me up in the middle of the night, just gone. Couldn't use my left leg. Just massive pain. Off to the GP to get some pain relief, and then nothing was working, and MRIs and surgery later. Um, Woke up from the surgery pain free, just phenomenal, but very, very nervous and apprehensive about ever swinging a golf club again, because that's what I felt had tipped me over. Bad technique, relying on muscles that I shouldn't have been relying on, and suffered the consequences.
Yeah, definitely. And how did you get back on that road to recovery then, following that surgery, then taking steps back to playing golf?
Yeah, so after the surgery, I then investigated the post-op care via physios, being a huge fan of physios. And I don't know if I told you this, Billy, but I enlisted three different physios. I'm a very keen rock climber, so I had a physio who's specific in rock climbing. I got a fellow who's done his masters in the specific L5S1 disc that I blew, and yourself, and trialed them all for a little while. And definitely, without question, I just knew my future lay in a program such as that you were putting out.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you reaching out to multiple different people. I think that's good as well that you're seeking information and I guess you're giving stuff a go, right? And seeing what works. So, do you mind telling the audience the process that we went through then when we first met and what the program started with?
So I don't know how I happened upon you. It might have just been through Facebook or somewhere. And we had a meeting and a FaceTime assessment of my golf and of my swing, and you talked a lot about what I was doing, what I wanted to achieve, and you then just measured me up for different flexibilities and identified a few areas that could improve. But we're very sensitive to the fact that, of course, in the acute phase, I was recovering from back surgery. So it was steady as she goes until such time, with regular meetings on FaceTime, you were confident that I was strong enough to start to do a bit more aggressive exercises, and that's been building up then 3 times a week. And I've got to say, Billy, I hate it every week. It's these exercises, but I just know the benefit, and if something gets in the way in my life and I don't do them, honestly, just for a few days, I can feel myself regressing. So that's just the power of the program you've been writing.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it in the past. Let's say, how's it going, Mike, when you say, I still hate the planks, but I still do them too, right? And it's like taking medicine. Sometimes we don't like the taste of it, but it's the benefit that you get from it. So it's really important that you've stated that. And for people that have had back pain, they might know how important the core is. Almost acts like a corset around our spine. So if that's strong and stable, that will put you in better positions throughout the swing, mate. So with your programs, do you mind talking about the specifics then? What sort of exercises you're doing, how long the workouts were?
Yeah, look, being 61 too, what I've noticed is flexibility is very important as well as strength. And I've also noticed the guys I play golf with, they are tending to go backwards with their golf, whereas I'm not only just maintaining, I'm getting a little bit better, and I've still got that desire to improve. And I really think it's that combination of flexibility and strength that's seeing me go through. There's lots of leg work, and lots of core work, as well as upper body rotation. And that combination seems to be working well for me. But I appreciate the monthly assessments, because then you can tweak it and fine tune it. And also, if I'm away, I travel a lot, you're able to modify it. If I don't have access to equipment, even simple equipment, you're able to modify it to get me through.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important as well with a lot of people moving. You're enjoying your golf and enjoying retirement, mind you. So as you should, and that's a big thing, continuity around that process. If you slacken off for 2 or 3 weeks, and you referenced it before, things will start to regress. So if you can keep on top of that with a program that you can do in a hotel room or at a small equipped golf facility, then that's going to certainly serve you well in the long run then. And what were you doing, let's say prior to meeting me, before you played golf? Did you have any like routines in place, whether it was a warm-up strategy, any fitness programs?
For golf.
Yeah, for golf.
Yeah, you mean? So before we crossed paths, Billy, I really didn't have any sort of warm-up routine, other than hitting a few balls on the range before we hit off. But naively, I was out there. I was that guy trying to thump 30 golf balls in 15 minutes as hard as I can before I hit the first tee. So it was just a debacle. I've got such a better understanding of the mechanics of my swing, and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And so even on the course now, I'm able to, where I never have before, certainly just have a bit of an idea of, oh, hang on, that's why this is happening, or I should do this to prevent that. So that's very handy as well.
For sure. And do you mind digging into that for the listeners, what you thought may have been causing it in your mechanics, what you've changed, and what you try and keep your eye on?
I've always suffered the curse of the early release, and that's kind of where you're pushing through, with your hips too early, and the ball just does this ridiculous power fade. And the harder you try and swing, the worse that gets. So what's been happening is I've got through the exercise program, my core's really tightened up and my legs have become a lot stronger. So I can kind of hold that. It's a bit hard to describe, but you kind of just hold that thing all together. And then you just let the club and the swing do its thing without trying to force it.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to that core set analogy, that's what we want. A lot of the best golfers in the world are maintaining that really solid back position. It's not extending or side bending a lot. So um, what you're referencing earlier, where your hips come closer when towards the ball, that's something we've kept on top of. And even recently, we are talking prior to how you were doing some speed training. old patterns start to creep in. And it's like a lot of us golfers, we have that little devil on our shoulder that's always there that needs to be managed. And I guess for you and your golf swing, it's that early extension, that early release. So I guess if you're doing your program and keeping on top of that, that will stay to the side. That devil will be quiet. But when we start to let those old habits drift in, that devil gets louder and louder. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on the speed training I was doing. Um, typical golfer, we're always thinking if I had 20 meters more, wouldn't that be nice? So I launched into a program of that, but it just wasn't for me. You just got to know your limitations as well. And I currently play off 5, and I'm more than happy with that. My days of being lower than that, I think, are done. You have something up your sleeve when the lottery ticket's on the line.
That's right. And do you mind telling the audience about your recent golf trip then? Because you would have played a lot of golf. You played pretty well. Can you talk about that? And after that surgery, do you think you would have got back to that point?
Yeah, so fortunately now being retired, I'm able to slip into a few golf trips with various mates at various times, and one came up just out of the blue on the back of another one, and so I played golf straight for about 8 days, and I couldn't tell you the last time I did that, and I was really quite nervous because I didn't know how that fatigue would go. But in the first tournament, I managed to come second with these boys, and there was 12 of us. And the next time with 16 of us, we managed to bring home the bacon. And consistent through the whole 8 days. You're very big on nutrition and hydration too, so I kept that in mind because I knew I was playing a lot of golf for a lot of time. And certainly each day I would do that warm-up routine that you recommend as well. And I think just being a bit humble and a bit smarter and going, you know what? If you said to me once, Billy, you said, if you want to keep playing golf, you're going to have to do this. Otherwise, you're kidding yourself. You gave me a bit of tough love. And it's true. And I did. And that's the result.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And sometimes it can rub people the wrong way if they aren't willing to put that extra bit of effort in. But obviously, like you said, you've been humble enough to take upon that bit of feedback and say, all right, well, I'll just do the work, right? And can you talk to that a little bit? Because we've been working together for a long time now, and I've really had to rein you in and say, hey, Michael, you're slipping up a little bit. Can you speak to how you've maintained consistency for so long?
Yeah, it's very simple. I pay for your advice, and I'm a real tidy. So um, I'm only kidding myself, but it's a human nature. You don't value something often if it's free, and so the exercise programs, it's an investment of money, but I've made it really the investment of my time. I get a lot out of golf. It's not just the sport; it's the social connectivity, and this is something that I really want to play for the next 15 to 20 years. And so I just have to do the work. That keeps me motivated. And I know what happens if I stop because I've got a bit slack there once or twice, and I see that on the horizon. It's not like rehab for a knee replacement or something like that. You do it and it's done. This is a ever evolving, ongoing process.
For sure. No, I'd 100% agree. And I guess that old saying, the tight ass pays twice. Like I myself have been a tighty in the past as well. I've started to loosen the screws a little bit with time because I've got bitten so many times trying to take shortcuts. So like you said, I think when you invest in appropriate advice, like I'll pay for a tax account, I pay for property advisors, that sort of stuff. I think it really can accelerate the progress. So I think you're dead right there. And Michael, don't want to take too much of your time, mate. But if someone's sitting on the fence that has back pain or having some sort of golf related pain, what would you tell them in terms of getting started on some sort of fitness regimen?
First thing I'd say is what not to do, and don't search the internet, right? My father-in-law was, searching the internet, and the exercises that were coming up were just diabolical. The easiest thing to do would be try it and see. You got nothing to lose except a couple of bucks. Sign up for a program for three months or something, sufficient time to be able to make a progress in this. And really, it wasn't long before I just suddenly realized, oh, hang on a minute. My core's a bit tighter, my legs are a bit stronger. And I got a little taste of what was around the corner. So that's what I encourage people to do is sign up, have a go. Gee whiz, if you want to play golf long term, you know, what is it? Definition of madness is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Yeah, jump on board.
Perfect, Michael. Look, mate, I really appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure having you a part of the program, mate. And no, I really appreciate your support.
Good on you, Billy. I wouldn't be here, mate, singing your praises if there wasn't proof in the pudding.
All right, mate. Well, I appreciate it, Michael. Thanks so much.
Good on you, mate.
Cheers. Mate, that was brilliant. I really appreciate that.